Jesus asks, "Who do people say that I am?" Peter says, "You're the Christ, the Messiah, the one we've been waiting for." And Jesus says, you couldn't know that by your own intelligence. It came to you from above. So with that, he starts to explain more about what this means to be the Messiah. And he says the Messiah will be shamed, spit on, and crucified. And then you remember Peter says no. And then Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan. You're not on God's side after all, but man." So Peter, in a matter of 2 minutes, goes from contact with the uncreated divine grace, which he doesn't understand what he's saying. So we have to understand this too. The encounter with the Father did not suddenly give Peter full comprehension of all mysteries. In that moment, he recognized something. So Jesus gave more. And then we should all take from this an awareness, an understanding that we too, like Peter, go from understanding something to be completely opposite of it within 2 minutes. We can proclaim something and then we don't stand. And so if you try to take the cross away from Christ, it's Satan. This is very important because in our life, this is what we struggle with. We struggle between Christ, the love of God, and Satan, who's ashamed of Christ, hates Christ, and works against him. Now, how does this work in our life? There are 3 important statements in our reading this morning that we heard. One is to pick up your cross, follow him. The other is if we seek to save our life, we'll lose it. And the third is that if we're ashamed of Christ now, he will be ashamed of us when he comes with the angels. Now, what does this mean? I'm sorry the Spivies aren't here. I wanted them to hear this story, the kids. There was once a king. He was very old and he had no heirs. And so he proposed a way to find the best person to be king. So he got a big bucket and he put all of these seeds from all over the world in the bucket. And he invited all the children of the kingdom to come. And he said, "I want you to pick out one seed, and whoever, after a year, grows the most wonderful plant will be the person who will take over the kingdom." And so the kids come up, and some of them pick the biggest seeds because they think that'll bring the biggest plants. And then one picks a tiny little seed because he knew about the mustard seed. So they all go home, and at the end of the year, the king calls them back. And they all come in bringing these pots with huge plants, exotic things from all over the world, except for this one little boy. And he didn't want to come back because his seed didn't sprout. He watered it, he cared for it all year, in spite of the fact that nothing was happening, and he was getting scared and ashamed and embarrassed because he would be going with all these other kids who are talking about their plants are growing and everybody's doing great except him. He's the oddball. And his mother told him, "Look, you did everything you were supposed to do. You cared for this and you watered it. You go because your efforts make a difference." Okay. He heard that and he went. But he's hung out in the back of all the people because he was ashamed. And the other kids, you know how they do. They gloated, made fun of him. "What happened to your pot?" You know, it doesn't feel good. The king looked out over everything, and he had some painful feelings because he had boiled all the seeds. None of the seeds could sprout. So what had happened? There was only one honest parent and child in the whole kingdom, that little boy and his mother. And so he asked for the little boy, had the guards bring the little boy up front, and he told them what had happened. And now the little boy's shame melted, and there was gratefulness and incomprehension. How can this be? He said, "You're the only one here worthy to be the king. because you have integrity and you could bear the shame of what people said about you without betraying the truth. Wow. I even get hair standing up on my neck when I say that because it's such an important thing. And in our time, we betray the truth all over the place because we don't want to be ashamed. And so we let the world tell us what to do. And when I was a boy, they had commercials about Wonder Bread. Y'all remember Wonder Bread? Builds strong bodies 12 ways, floats up in the air. There's nothing in it except the chemicals that they put back in it after they took all the stuff that's in bread out. But then if you were going to be something, you bought that white bread and ate it. Because only those old backwoods people ate whole wheat stuff, that old brown bread, you know. Of course, when I worked in the Whole Earth in Princeton, the natural food store, the bugs couldn't even live in the white stuff. There's nothing in it, it's no nutrients. Well, after a while, the whole wheat began to be something that the upper class liked, who had enough money to buy things that could be organic and whatnot. So then, only people who were eating the white bread were the people that were sort of backwards. Well, the same thing happened with skin color. If you were lily white at one point, you must be rich because you could stay in your house. You didn't have to work and get a red neck. That's where that comes from, you know, out in the sun. So if you're a redneck, you're poor, you got to work, you don't amount to much as the white ones that are in the house who have all the money. So then what happens? Well, a little time goes by. Now if you're white and your skin hasn't been out in the sun, you don't have enough money to go to the Riviera to get a tan. So now you want to be nice and brown and get away from that white skin. If you wear pleated pants, you are doing what they do in Europe until pleated pants are out and now flat pants are in. And now if you wear pleated pants, you're some old man who's not with it. If you wear the pleated ones and have a flat belly, okay. You see what's happening here. The ties go like this, then they go like this. The shirt collars go with buttons, then without buttons. And every time the car fins go up, the cars change. Why? Because our shame is being used by the corporate machine to manipulate us into buying things. Now, how does this relate to the cross? The cross is the cleansing of our stupidity. It's the shearing away from us of attachment and idolatry to that which doesn't matter at all. Unless you're not like the little boy who could water his plant and still face the king. If you're one of the other kids whose parents want you to be up and coming, whatever that is, according to the fad of the time, then you'll sell your integrity for a bowl of soup. But if you won't sell your integrity, you're following Christ. The king probably wouldn't have been ashamed of those parents and those kids. He would have felt grieved in his heart. And I'm sure that this is what Christ feels. But when we hear God's angry with us or God's ashamed of us, it's a way of speaking about what we're experiencing because of what we've done to ourselves. God is love. But love is rejected when we're ashamed. And so all those kids out there felt terrible after the king told the truth. Their bodies would have hardened inside, contracted, as they tried to deal with the fact that they'd just been exposed in a way that they didn't want to be. And they would try to wiggle out of this. So the shame they felt is not God hating them. It's the consequences of sin and the attachment to our idolatrous face that we give to the world because I turn my real face away from you because I'm ashamed of myself. One of my soldiers who was the pilot of an A-10 attack craft that flies low to support ground troops. He was on the gun, looking at a house, and at the moment that he killed these two insurgents, watched them evaporating, he said he felt more powerful than he'd ever felt in his life. It was just electric. And right at the moment he saw this and they were killed, their children came out of the house to them. And at that moment, he said he turned upside down. He became a conscientious objector. He left the military, and when I saw him, he had severe PTSD, and he told me that when he went home and his children came running out of the house to greet him, he was full of rage, and he didn't want anything to do with them. Now, why would you push your own children away in rage when seeing what had happened to those other children broke your heart so badly that it turned you away from even being able to continue in the war? Because of shame. And shame, if I trust the love of God, my shame I bear like the boy did. And it frees me from what people say in the world, from consumer, from materialism, from all kinds of stuff. Because I'm free. Only God knows me. You can't do something to me unless I give you the power to. But the devil likes us to have shame of a different sort. He says, let me help you not be ashamed. You ought to feel so bad about what you did. So bad. Think about that. The lash of the devil is electric, and it burns so deep it will turn a man away from his own children and his own soul. And it will turn him from Christ, because that's what that is. Christ is love. Christ does not lash us. He does not sting us. We do this to ourselves because in our allegiance to that which enslaves us, to the devil and to everybody's opinion, makes us turn away from the one we love. Every marriage does this. The one you love, you argue with, you fight, because at the bottom of that is, if I am not loved, it confirms how awful I am. And I can't tolerate that, so I'm going to fight. This is the way we're constructed. There's shame that drives us against Christ, and there's shame that we bear to have a vulnerability with one another in order to enter into love. That's the one that matters. And that shame can't hurt us if we're not afraid of it. And we won't be afraid of it if we realize that Jesus rose from the dead. And his apostles saw this, and 400 other people did, and St. Paul saw him, and St. Ignatius gave his life in the arena to be eaten by lions because he wanted to be born, he said. I'm going to offer myself to the lions. He was captured so I can be born, ground like wheat in their teeth and be born. He knew St. Polycarp, who was burned at the stake about 30 years later. And he entertained the Roman soldiers and gave them lunch while he prayed before they took him. St. Irenaeus knew St. Polycarp and had listened to him speak about his relationship with John the Apostle. And he heard his preaching. Christianity captured the entire Roman world over a period of about 250 years, never firing a shot. It did it through having a very different relationship with shame and trusting that our life is not this one. This one's preparing us for our real one. When this is real, We live different lives, and we struggle to get free of our enslavement to the devil and each other's opinion, and the devil's opinion of me inside me, because he's got a hold on me, and he robs me to the degree that I go with him of my integrity. I want to be like that little boy, and I want to water that which doesn't look like it's growing. I don't want to fall to despair. I want to water my faith. I don't want it to suddenly give way because my prayers were dry today, or I don't want to fast, or I don't want to go and tell God what I did and be exposed. No. I don't want these things having power over me. I want to be free, and I want to be someone who can love and be loved and bear shame. I want to be a shame bearer, not because of lack of integrity, but because of integrity. Good self-esteem is willing to bear shame. It doesn't run from it in order to be true. May God help us do this and stand before Christ boldly.